Welcome to episode 18 of the Practice Squad, a show where we talk about football and make the replacement refs look like pros. I'm your host and fourth string quarterback Jeremy, joined each and every week by my co-host and backup long snapper Joseph. How's it going, man?
I'm sitting here wondering, is there any more room on Chris Long's arms for any more tattoos?
There are a couple of those guys. They're out there. Um, so we're live right here on YouTube each and every week during the postseason at 7:30 p.m. Pacific. So remember to turn your clocks back an hour as we'll be running out the season or this postseason at 7:30 p.m. each week. If you're tired of the punditry or just want a fresh voice, come listen to a couple random dudes talk about football and have a good time. This week we've got a recap of the divisional games, lots of awesome discussions, and as always, we'll round out the show with our predictions. So there's a lot to cover. Three of the four games were good this week. So let's go ahead and dive right into that. So in this segment one divisional weekend, we're going to be going over the games in the order that they happened. And at the end of that segment, I'm going to be giving sharing a pattern I noticed amongst all of these games. So that's a little tease for you. So all four home teams won. That's not the pattern, by the way. The pattern I found actually took a little bit more intelligence than that. So all four home teams won this week. So the number one and number two seeds survive to battle each other for the conference championship next weekend on Sunday. So the first game of the week was Colts at Chiefs, ending in a final score of 31-13 Chiefs over Colts. So Joseph, why don't you go ahead and go first on this one? Because I think you were a little down on this one.
Yeah, this is the game I have the least to talk about actually. Like it was just really straightforward that like the Chiefs just took over the game and never let go. The Colts did not produce at all. Andrew Luck had a down game, 19 of 36 for only 203 yards, one touchdown and a pick. The run game was okay, but not enough. Mahomes, he did what he had to. He didn't throw any touchdowns. He did have a rushing touchdown, but they relied on their run game. Damian Williams had a good rush game, and their defense looked solid. The Colts had drops and throws and just couldn't do anything. So by halftime, the game was, pretty much wrapped up. It was 24-7, and they never recovered. So not much to say. Nothing. I didn't really see much controversy in that game either. So
yeah, there were two plays I want to talk about that I thought were relevant to discuss, but I think that in terms of looking at the game in an overarching manner, the Colts were so here's the recipe for losing. To be 0-9 on third down on offense, to have no run defense, give up 180 yards and 4 touchdowns on the ground, and to jump off sides at least 3 times. I think it might have been 4 for a total of 10 penalties. Their offense just could not get it going. And yes, the Chiefs scored 31 points, but I actually don't fault the defense for a lot of that. I thought that there were some times where there were some Chief receivers that were too wide open, and the run D was having some issues. But they got 4 sacks on Mahomes. They had some decent pressure on him. I felt like if they had just had a better time of possession and actually gotten some first downs, they could have made that into a game. But Joseph is right. It was a game that the Chiefs grabbed a hold of and never let go. So the couple of plays I wanted to talk about were there was a just garbage running into the kicker penalty. I cannot stand that rule. I don't know. I don't know what there is to do other than to just remove that rule, because when guys are flying off the edge or sometimes through the middle, depending on how good the blocking is for the punting team, there's very little you can do when you jump into the air to try to tip a ball, and you're obviously going in the direction of the kicker because that's where the starting point of the momentum of the ball is. The trajectory of the ball is starting at the kicker's leg. So you're jumping up and over that position on the kicker's body. And so how do you I just don't understand how you're supposed to avoid contacting the punter when you're in the air. You have very little control over your body. It's not like when guys are, hitting quarterbacks that are sliding down. I think there's a little more control there, even though we've already argued that that's iffy sometimes, right? But I don't understand. I get that they want to protect punters because most teams only have like one or two punters, and they don't they're very vulnerable in that position. But I see guys get blocked into kickers all the time, and they still get called for running into the kicker. It's not a very common penalty, but it's something that I feel like almost punishes teams for attempting to block punts. And I don't know what to do other than just to remove the rule, because many times this season I've seen, and I've complained about it. This is not the first time I've complained about it on this show. I've seen guys that could not change their velocity into the kicker, and they were punished for it. So what do you do? I mean, what do you think about this, Joseph? I know we've talked about it before, and I think you're a little less worried about this than I am, but do you remember the play I'm talking about?
I actually don't. I watched the whole game, but I don't remember that play.
Okay, what about the rule though?
I agree with you. I think I'm not sure they should get rid of it, but maybe because they've tried to clarify with hitting the planting leg, that you're running into the planting leg. But are you talking the difference between running into the kicker or roughing the kicker? Or like getting rid of every
so I think, I feel like roughing the kicker is a little bit of a different discussion. I think I have the main issue with running into the kicker because it seems like it doesn't take into account incidental contact.
So
at least the way the rule is executed. I don't know if I haven't read the text of the rule. I'll be honest about that. So I don't know if the text itself is dysfunctional or if it's just the way it's applied.
So I know there's the caveat of running into the plant leg, and I just don't know if that's the difference between running and roughing. If that's the difference for that, then that's okay, fine. But then what you're saying is, well, then why can't we just get rid of the running into the kicker if he's making incidental contact and not roughing the kicker? And I think that's actually fair, because that seems like to me what they've done with the quarterback. Like, there is no running into the quarterback, right? There's roughing.
Right.
There's roughing the passer. So like if the guy gets hit, I mean, a guy could probably get more injured on non-roughing the passer calls that are hard hits versus running into the kicker calls that are called for a 5-yard penalty. So I agree. I think they can get rid of it and focus on, does this look deliberate? Was it too hard? Is he hitting his plant leg? Like, was there no chance to block the ball? I'd rather let them have their subjective judgment on that and just stay with roughing the kicker, which, with the caveat of Jeremy and I believe that these calls should be reviewable. And just get rid of running into the kicker.
Yeah, I think I could jump on that train. Or maybe one thing they could do is for the 5-yard penalty, it would always be they could make it so that it always would have to be assessed at the end of the kick. So that way it would never result in the kicking team getting a first down.
I think that's nonsense. Yeah, that's nonsense of doing that. Heck, if you wanted to go that route to deter running into the kicker, make it a 10 or 15-yard penalty assessed at the end. But this business of making an automatic first down doesn't make any sense because the issue is
Well, it's not an automatic first down.
well,
It's a
if it's
but it
5,
oftentimes will result in it if it's less than a 4th and 5.
yeah,
Right.
and it shouldn't. Like the fact that a guy can't get a good punt off means that either the punt should be redone or there's an adding a 15-yard penalty at the end. Like it makes no sense logically in terms of the like causality that how each event plays out. It makes no sense to give them a first down. They either redo the punt or add 15 yards at the end to the penalty for the receiving team, not redoing a new set of downs.
Yes.
Because they already lost. They gave up. They lost their right to continue by getting 4th down. That was their mistake. So
Right.
it should be re-kicked.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then the other play I wanted to talk about was, I'm surprised you actually didn't pick up on this, Joseph, because this was a who would Joseph cut moment. I thought anyway.
Maybe I forgot.
So the Chiefs, there was only one of these in the game. The Chiefs had a turnover on downs, and immediately following that, so the Colts get the ball back, and immediately following that, one of the Colts gets a unsportsmanlike conduct call for, I think it was for taunting.
Oh, okay. Yes, I didn't see it because it was the condensed version, but they played it. I think it was number 99.
Yeah, Danico
Yes.
Autry.
Yes, so I do remember that. Yes, I do. On the condensed version, they talk about it for 5 seconds and they cut over. So yeah, I do remember that.
So would he be on the first team All Pro of players that Joseph would cut?
So without seeing the play, I'm gonna start him at second team.
Second team.
And I'll have to go back and watch the play.
Okay. Taunting is just unacceptable. That's not, because it's always preventable, right? There's every occasionally if someone punched you and you're defending yourself in a certain way and that gets called, there can maybe be a little bit of a gray area there, but taunting is always preventable. Okay, so the next game,
it's always stupid and childish.
Yeah, and always stupid and childish. So the next game, Saturday evening, was Cowboys at Rams, that ended in a final of Rams 30, Cowboys 22. So for this game, I think the reason why the Cowboys lost and the Rams won is pretty simple. The Cowboys just could not stop the run. It's Anderson. I forget. Is it CJ Anderson or CJ Anderson? And Todd Gurley, they're an unstoppable combo. They had 273 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. Were averaging 5.7 yards a carry. I mean, the Cowboys could just not stop the run.
They didn't have 273, but the team did. They had
the team had 273 rushing yards. That's what I meant to say. 48 carries for 273 was the team statistic.
Regardless, Anderson and Gurley had 39 carries for 138 yards. So that's still, 238 yards.
Yeah, so they had the Lions' share of it.
Yeah.
So then on the flip side, when you can't stop the run and you can't run, Ezekiel Elliott, who was coming into the postseason with some of the best rushing stats of the season, had 20 carries, which is a lot of carries for only 47 yards and a touchdown. So that's it. I mean, that's really why they lost, because it actually was a fairly close game overall. This wasn't like the Rams were up 30-3 and then there were a bunch of garbage touchdowns at the end. This was a game, and the Cowboys just couldn't stop the run, and they couldn't run. I loved the aggressiveness from the coaching in this game. There were 6 4th down plays in this game, and 5 of them were converted. I love watching that. That's so exciting in postseason when coaches go for it on 4th down.
And it was early on in the game too. There were several in the first half.
Yeah. More. To be honest, I don't know why more football isn't played this way. I'd like to see the statistics on the success at, 4th and 4, 4th and 3, 4th and 2, 4th and 1 broken down. Because I'm pretty sure that 4th and 1 has to be more than 50%.
Shocked.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked either. So there was one play. Actually, well, before I get to the play, if you have any thoughts on this one, Joseph, I thought this game had a pretty simple explanation.
Yeah, I mean, when you can't run the ball and you can't stop the run, because Goff didn't do much. Like he didn't really do much at all. He did have a couple big plays when he needed to, but he didn't really do anything. It was all the run game. Let's look at the disparity between the amount of plays they had. The Rams had 76 plays. The Cowboys had 54.
Yeah.
I mean, so the Rams had 48 run plays. They had nearly as many run plays as the Cowboys had total plays. So just time of possession and wearing out the Cowboys defense, and the Cowboys did not answer. I thought that Prescott played okay, but there were several dropped catches and missed throws between him and his wide receivers that cost them first downs, and they just capitalized. So, so I did have a player first team All Pro cut. You want me to get to that, or
yes, yeah, do that, and I'll do my play after that.
So it's basically the play that ended the game, with Goff running 11 yards on the 3rd and 7, or because the Cowboys would have gotten the ball back with a couple minutes left. So Goff fakes the run to the left hand side, and he ends up just casually. I think it was a design pass play, but then he quickly saw the window for a run and took it and ran for 10, 11 yards. So on the right-hand side, you had a tight end and 2 wide receivers, or 2 tight ends and a wide receiver for the Rams lined up, and you had their defenders there. And I don't know if it was strictly man-to-man, like they decided, okay, I'm going to pick this guy no matter where he goes, or we're just going to pick randomly when they snap and see where they run, because they got mixed up. Like one of the outside wide receivers went in, the inside tight end went out, and 2 of those guys got picked up. Well, number 38, good old number 38 on the Cowboys, decided to pick up nobody, and instead of making sure that Goff did not have the ball and, I don't know, care about the right side of the field, after the fake, and even though Goff is like more clearly in his vision, number 38 decides to take a stutter step and go to the right side of the field. I don't know what he was thinking, because no matter what he did, unless he's the fastest man in the world times 2, nothing he would have done, but he would have been able to tackle C.J. Anderson on the other side of the field. C.J. would have ran, and he would have been tackled regardless, early or late. 38 would not have been involved. If 38 had just shifted over 1 or 2 feet to the left and been ready, he would have been able to approach Goff, tackle him, and the Cowboys would have gotten the ball back. Instead, he stutter stepped to the right, didn't pay attention, tried to go to the other side of the field to do nothing, and therefore I think he should be fined, fired, never allowed to play in the NFL, and he can retire on the fact that he's first team all cut.
So I have one question for you. Was he a 49ers safety?
Did you guys trade him at the end of the season?
I think we might have. That might have been a postseason pickup.
Yeah, it was bad though. I watched. I heard about it. I knew about the score before I watched the game, and I had heard that Goff ran the ball for 11 yards to end it, and I'm like, I have to see this. And when I saw that miscue, I was like, wait a second, what just happened there? And I rewatched it like 4 times to see how the players dispersed on who they covered, and then 38 was just standing there.
Well, that actually, so interestingly enough, that happened in 2 games. Both of the NFC games were iced by a running play on 3rd down.
Yeah, that's right. Kamara had that big run.
Yep. And that would have, if they hadn't converted, would have resulted in the losing team able to come back within a 1-score game. So, yeah, I don't remember that specific player doing that, but I can envision it in my mind and just imagine, I don't know. Sometimes when you watch like replays from the coach's tape of certain players on the defense during certain plays, you actually see kind of a lot of kind of dumb things. It's it's a little disconcerting. I'm not a defensive expert, so sometimes I might just not understand why they're doing it. But then there's other times where you see them just totally miscalculate where the runner's going, not pay attention to where the actual ball is, drop back too much, come up too close, stuff like that. All right, so our third game and the most exciting game of the weekend was the LA Chargers at Joseph's New England Patriots.
Oh,
So
please.
that ended in a final score of Patriots over Chargers 41-28. And by that I really mean 41-14. So I just felt like the Chargers came out of the their offense came out of the gate. Rivers was not himself. He had a sub 50% completion percentage, and the Chargers had no pass rush. They ran the ball. The Pats ran the ball effectively, and apparently Brady and Edelman still have a thing because they were unstoppable.
Dude, the Chargers, speaking of bad rushing, the Chargers, if you thought the Cowboys were bad, the Chargers one-upped them because the Chargers were atrocious. Melvin Gordon was 9 rushes for 15 yards. In the first quarter, he had an 8-yard rush, which means the rest of his rushes, he had 8 rushes for 7 yards.
Yeah.
So, one, when did the Pats have a great rush defense? And two, dude, their pass rush was everywhere.
Yeah, they were.
What is up with this? The Patriots do not have a top 5 talented team this year, like in any regard. But yesterday, they were playing like madmen. And I wouldn't be worried if I was the Chiefs, especially if you're playing in Kansas City. But look out, be careful. Make sure you really play Mahomes well and try to seal a victory up, because I wouldn't count the Patriots out now after watching that game. And yeah, right, Edelman. So, you know this? Edelman is now second all-time in the postseason for receptions.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's congratulations to him. Who's number 1, do you know?
You better know. You better know.
See, when you say that, it just tees me up to be an idiot moron on the show. So I'm assuming it's Jerry Rice.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say. Well,
who else could it be?
Yeah. Now, can you guess number 3 though? Now, you could deduce this, probably not on the spot, but number 3.
Is it a player that at any point was a 49er?
No, he played for one team his whole career. He retired recently. Think of another great quarterback and who he could have played with for his whole career and would have been in the playoffs a lot.
And the receiver retired recently?
Yes, with like a year or two.
A year or two ago. I feel like it's at the tip of my tongue. I'm not going to burn airtime on this, but I'll be thinking about it with my amazing multitasking skills, and I'll loop back around.
I'll reveal at the end. Anyway,
Okay.
So Edelman second all time in postseason receptions. That is crazy. I wouldn't even have thought that he'd crack the top 5. But
okay, so chat, don't put it in the comments yet, because I want to actually get this one. If you have it, hold on to your answer and wait. We'll give you an opportunity before Joseph shares to put it online. Okay. So
one more thing you wanted to have the Chargers game. But my comment here is the Chargers freaked out and gave up the run, but could not execute the pass either. Basically, when they got suffocated early, they stopped running the ball and went to the pass, and Rivers, that did not work out. So
yeah, that's true, and I feel like the Patriots have sort of slowly and stealthily, in their very Bill Belichick-y ways, transitioned into a stronger run team over the last couple of years. And
Michelle was great.
Yeah, he was great. And they also have James White, who is sort of like an all-purpose back. he's I feel like that's sort of made up for Brady's decline to a certain extent. Like
Yeah.
their offense has kind of become more balanced. So that'll be interesting to see when Brady gets replaced, if that can stay strong. Maybe they'll stay at the top in the AFC East just for that reason. I don't know. But one thing I did notice, I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I did notice that there were a lot more penalties that went the Chargers' way once the game was out of hand.
I considering to our audience, I only watched the first half of the game because when it's 35-7 and you're in Foxborough,
Garbage touchdowns are the most exciting thing in football. Come on.
There's no point in watching the second. So, yeah, I don't know. I will say this though, it's pretty scary that the Patriots could lose Josh Gordon. Rob Gronkowski can only have one reception. Brady can be declined.
Oh, I thought you were going to say he only has one leg, which is also true.
Yeah, one arm, one shoulder. He can have that. Brady can be declining, and yet the Patriots can still dominate like they did.
Well, it just leads you to ask, how much did they deflate the balls yesterday? I mean, that's.
Oh man, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that play I wanted to bring up
from this game.
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
Well, it had to have been in the first half. That's the only half that I watched. I think it was near the end of the second quarter. The Patriots punted the ball to the Chargers, and guys, can you just learn how to catch a ball? When you call, I think he called for a fair catch, but regardless, he had plenty of room, and if he didn't, just catch the ball. There's no rain. It wasn't snowing. Like, the ball's coming right at you. You have a clear field of vision. Know how to catch a punt or a kickoff. I've never understood this. And of course he dropped it, and the Patriots recovered, at the sideline. Now they had called, initially the call in the field was that it was out of bounds, Chargers ball. And they review it and they overturned it to give to the Patriots. So one, there was not enough evidence to overturn the call. That's a fact. No, there was not. Two, I think there's some inconsistency in how they're calling plays and what they consider to be possession of the ball. Because in slow motion, some things look like, oh yeah, that's real possession. But he never possessed the ball. He basically fell on the ball. He's rolling on it. It's under his arms. And then he slides with it out of bounds. And I thought it was just dead obvious after they had two different angles they showed. And one of them was just like clear, oh yeah, he falls on the ball, but he never possessed it, and his arms start touching the white line and go out of bounds. And they overturned the call and gave possession to the Patriots. It was crazy. That was a really bad call.
Yeah, so I think I partially agree. I thought that there was one camera angle that showed what looked like a fairly complete recovery. Again, it was a gray area, and so that's where I agree with you that there was definitely not what's the term they use? Clear and uncontrovertible evidence, I think.
Clear and obvious, or clear.
Clear and obvious evidence that it was a recovery enough to overturn the call. I think that's what the problem was. If they had called it the other way, I would have been okay with it. Like if the on the field call had been a recovery and then they had reviewed it and confirmed, I would have been okay with that.
Okay.
I think your issue is with the reversal, right? Because they didn't have enough clear and uncontrovertible evidence to overturn.
It's mostly with that, but it's also with this conundrum of replay in the first place of, does it have to be clear and obvious? What does that mean? I mean, to me, it was pretty clear and obvious, deducing from logic and knowing how, the time rates, right? Time is slowed down in these replays. You can't be like, oh, there it is. I thought it was clear and obvious that he did not possess the ball before going out of bounds, but yeah. So that's all my comments on the Chargers game.
Yeah, I don't have anything more on that game.
It doesn't deserve more.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
fact, it probably went too long, so let's go move on.
Eagles at Saints is our final game of the week. Final Saints 20, Eagles 14. This was a very good game. Best game of the week by fairly significant margin, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was.
Mainly due to the fact that I think this was the only game outside of, I think, did the Cowboys score the first touchdown? I don't
Yes.
know. Yeah.
Yes,
So outside of that, their lead for like 30 seconds in that game, this was the only game where the visiting team that ended up losing actually had a lead for a significant amount of time. And I thought that, well, number one, that's what made it exciting, right? Was the Eagles were up 14-0, and then the Saints came back and scored 20 unanswered points. I thought the biggest reason the Eagles lost, yes, okay, fine, you can like give Alshon Jeffrey a timeout, but the biggest reason that they couldn't win, they had no run game to burn out the clock and maintain their lead, none at all. And they, even with that, they still had a chance to win late. Like if Jeffrey had caught that ball, who knows what would have happened.
Or if they stopped Kamara's run, they would have gotten the ball back with another minute and a half.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they had two big opportunities. I thought the game was officiated well. I don't remember. There was one call that I hated, and outside of that, I think it was fine.
What was that call? I don't remember.
We'll get to that one at the end.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there's just some exciting players to watch. Lattimore had 2 picks. Michael Thomas just rumbling down the field doing his thing. I mean,
he's amazing, dude. I don't, in terms of all around skill and athleticism, I don't think he's a top 3 wide receiver, but he makes up for it. So his hands and what's the other term?
Swagger?
No, they used a ridiculous term in the game where they said he runs violent plays. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but his hands are great, and there we go. The chemistry between him and Breeze overrides any, I wouldn't say a lack of athleticism, but he's not Julio Jones, Antonio Brown, and Calvin Johnson, but he plays as well as them because of how good his hands are and because of the chemistry between him and Breeze, and it was just amazing to watch. Him and Breeze had several big time necessary third down plays. There were at least 2 or 3 where they had to get the first down. It was third down and like 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15, and they got it. And it's because of just him being a great receiver. So,
yeah, no, that's true. Without him, they would not have won that game. Yeah.
And how about that fake punt by Taysom Hill?
Oh, the fake punt was great. I like Taysom Hill. He adds a very interesting, rarely used dynamic to their team.
Well, they need to use him. I think they need to find a way to incorporate his talent on plays, whether regular or fake plays, a lot more for this next coming game and the Super Bowl. I think that's going to be a key factor. I know you mentioned a few weeks ago that he could be a key factor, and he will be. He needs to be used more. He's fast. He has a good arm. Again, whether it's a fake play or a design play, he needs to be used more in these next 2 games, especially if they win next week. So
yeah, he threw a pretty good touchdown pass that got overturned because of a penalty.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's I want to see him used more for sure. And then seeing Breeze lined up as a receiver is always funny.
Yeah.
So the play that I wanted to talk about is none other than roughing the passer. So
I saw it, but they didn't show a replay on it, so I didn't see if it was bad or good.
Okay. Well, it was bad. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about it. So, quarter 4, 2 minutes and 25 seconds left. Saints number 92 gets a roughing the passer call. So, there was very clearly no contact of the defender's helmet onto the quarterback at all. There was no contact with any other part of number 92's body to the quarterback's head. or helmet area. The way it happened was he was coming around the edge and was being kind of pushed away from Breeze laterally. So his body was sort of curved or bent at an angle where his hips were out and his shoulders and legs were the other direction. And he reached out his arms to try to take down Nick Foles, and his two arms went and sort of like slapped Foles. One, like the forearm was up fairly close to the chin, but it wasn't actually touching the head. And the second arm was straight, parallel to the waistline. And he knocked him over, and roughing the passer flag flies in the air. First of all, the question should always be asked. Again, this is the first question that should be asked by a referee. And I wish it, I don't know if it is in their little conferences, but the first question that should be asked is, what could he have done? What could he have done to prevent what he did? And then, because if a flag's called, obviously someone thinks something that was illegal was done. So you say, number one, if it was illegal. And the second question is, what could he have done to prevent it? And my answer is, not only was this not illegal, but there was nothing he could have done to prevent it. I mean, he was only using his arms. He wasn't pulling or tugging at a horse collar or anything, or face mask. There was no helmet-to-helmet contact, no helmet-to-anything contact. And yet he got called for this. This is another example, quintessential example that we've talked about all season of why this play has to be reviewed automatically. It's just unacceptable. I don't care that it's bang bang. That's not an excuse. This has to be reviewed. Now, the Saints won, so, you know, it wasn't like this changed the outcome of the game, but still, there's times when it has. 49er fans think back to Ahmad Brooks sacking Drew Brees a few years ago. There was a huge controversy about that. I think we agree on this, so I don't think this is going to turn into a debate or anything like that. But you agree with me that
yes,
this call has to be automatically reviewed. All right, so that wraps up our divisional weekend game review. 3 awesome games, 1 poopy game. That's a pretty good ratio, I think, for the divisional week, and hopefully we'll get.
Whoa! No!
Okay, I thought that the other 3 games were interesting, but I'll say this. The 2 NFC games were good. The Chiefs-Colts game was okay, and the Chargers-Patriots game was poopy. How about that?
That's a fair compromise. I'm a little stronger than that, but that's a sufficient compromise.
Okay. Just that it was even more poopier? Is that okay? So, on to our next segment, favorite segment of the week. Commentators say the darndest things. So I've got a couple this week. So the first one came from the Eagles-Saints game. I don't remember the name of the guy. He said, the Eagles' tackling has improved. What they want to do is to tackle on the spot. Don't give up any extra yardage.
Just the Eagles, though.
Just the Eagles,
are the only team that wants to employ that tackling method.
Yes. And then...
Well, maybe the Niners don't.
Yeah, no, they haven't learned that just yet. They're employing the strategy of it's okay to give up extra yardage, and it's also okay to ankle tackle all the time. So my second quote, this comes from none other than our Monday night friend Jason Witten in the Chargers-Patriots game. And before I state this, remember, Tom Brady is number 12 on the Patriots. The Patriots, isn't that who they are? They just get better and better. 12 walks on that field, and they are going to be a force and the favorite.
Oh, man. It's like he got paid to say that.
I know. So finally, we're going to round out our week with our predictions. And if you can hear that soft rustling sound coming from the other microphone, it's Joseph grabbing a box of tissues because he didn't do so well this week.
No, I can.
So, but because I did so poorly last week, we're actually only one game off. So, my record so far, my postseason record so far is 5-3. I was 4-0 this week. I picked the home team for every game. So I'm at 63%, and Joseph's record this week was 2-2, which puts him at 4-4, 50%. How does it feel to be just mediocre?
Well, given a small data sample, I don't feel too bad since I beat you in the regular season.
Okay.
Now here's the real question is, I don't know how I'm going to come back and tie you. There's no way I can beat you. There's virtually no way I can beat you.
Well, you could beat me if I get both games wrong and you get both games right, but that could only happen if we pick both games differently.
And I have a feeling that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
And the Super Bowl is probably going to be the same too. So I just may have to concede now.
Sorry, I didn't record any music for the victory block. So
oh please,
we'll spend 10 seconds of pretending there's music playing. How about
that? Like what? 8 games to pick, and you're celebrating over here.
So just so everybody's clear on exactly why Joseph lost, it's because he picked the Chargers and he picked the Cowboys. So
yeah, I have a certain relative in my family who's probably listening, and he got me hyped up, and
who's pretty devastated right now.
Yeah, he's pretty devastated. So maybe I shouldn't pick on him because I'm devastated that I lost, and I'm devastated that they lost because I know he's devastated. So I'll just watch that now. But I got a little hyped on their win with the Seahawks and the Chargers. I stand by it. I'm ashamed of Rivers. I really thought he was going to go in there and beat him. So Rivers is now either 0-8 or 0-9 against Brady. And I did not know that before the pick. If I had known that, that would have affected my pick. I did not know that.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say that the Chargers should have gone in there and won, but
that's fair.
But they should have gone in there and made it close. They have the skill and the talent to do that. So that was a bummer to see that performance.
They were undefeated, I think, on the road this year.
Really?
I think so. I thought I saw a stat that they were either 8-0, like 9-0, or 7-1, 8-1, or something. Like
maybe our dejected Dallas fan can fact check us on that.
So yeah, that was sad.
Since they have nothing else to do because the Cowboys are no longer in the playoffs. No,
hey man, that's family.
Well, hey, I'm allowed to say that because I'm a 49er fan. So boo Cowboys.
That's fair. You guys have been terrible the whole year, boo. So I guess.
All right. So playoff predictions. Only 2 games. Our championship weekend. First game is Rams at Saints. I hope you join us at 12:05 p.m. on Sunday to watch that game. And the second game is Patriots at Chiefs, 3:40 p.m. on Sunday as well. So let's start with Rams at Saints. Do you want to go first or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first on this one. You can pick the next one. I'm going Saints. I think the Saints were a little rusty because that was their first game this postseason. They had the bye, and I think now they're going to be more ready. And Goff will play better than he did last week, but they are not going to run on the Saints like they did against the Cowboys. And I expect Breeze to have a much better game, so it'll be close. Thinking like a 31-24 kind of thing, but I think the Saints will pull it off.
I'm picking the same. And I just realized my strategy should be to just pick the same games as you, even if I think the team's going to lose, and that way I guarantee that I'll win.
Then that would be pretty lame, but okay.
No, I'm picking the Saints because they have home field advantage. I think the Rams haven't shown in their secondary that they can stop high-octane passing teams, and the Saints are one of those, especially in the Dome. And I think the Saints may struggle with Gurley and co, but I don't think it's going to be enough for the Rams to pull off an upset there. So next game is Patriots at Chiefs, and I am picking the Chiefs by a sliver on this one. what I saw from the Patriots this week was very scary, but they're not playing at home. And I think a lot of that energy comes from the home field advantage. So I think this is an even playing field where the Chiefs have, they showed that they can do it in the playoffs. Mahomes did not seem, he did not seem phased at all by the fact that he was in his first playoff game yesterday or on Saturday. He looked like a natural. So I'm not worried about his experience. And I think they have the tools to win.
Yeah, same here, going Chiefs. I mean, it's scary that they won that well on Mahomes playing okay. He wasn't bad, but he wasn't great. And I expect him to come out firing. So, yeah.
It's going to be exciting. These games should both be, I would be shocked if either of these games was not good.
Yeah, no, these are the best 4 teams, and I'm kind of glad, actually. Other than it would have been nice to see Rivers, that kind of, the AFC West, and then possibly a Saints Chargers, Breeze old team, kind of seeing that story play out this postseason. But other than that, I think this is probably the best setup for the championship games.
So, real quick, because we have a little extra time, if regardless of how we picked, like what we think is going to happen, what are your top 2 favorite Super Bowl combos this year?
Saints Patriots, just because I'd love to see the 2 of the greatest quarterbacks of all time go out. Is Brady gonna lose? That would have been his 9th Super Bowl appearance, 3 in a row. Is he gonna lose back-to-back Super Bowls? Or does Breeze win his 2nd, take him down, send him into retirement, or a vengeful season next year? I think that would be great, because we missed out a couple years ago on Packers Patriots, which would have been that would have been amazing. So I wouldn't mind seeing that. And next would be Saints Chiefs. The young gunslinger versus the older gunslinger, and the fact that Mahomes had a Breeze-esque like season this year and did it so early on. So Saints Patriots number 1, and then Saints Chiefs number 2.
I think both those picks are on the money. I don't want to see the Rams in either matchup. Not because I hate the Rams, which despite being a Niner fan, people think I should be. I actually don't. But I just want to see. I'm also allured by the Breeze Brady matchup. That I would love to see Breeze pull off a win. And then I think just Saints Chiefs is just going to be fun. I don't know. There's something about that is just going to be fun to watch. I don't have a horse in the race, and either win would be exciting to me. So,
yeah.
Which is actually, to be honest, for me, that's actually can make it a little bit less exciting, because I generally like to have matchups where there's a team that I either really want to win or really don't want to win. And that's why I've enjoyed most of the last several years with the Seahawks being in the playoffs, is because I'm rooting for every team that they play to beat them. And that makes it interesting. Whereas, when we were watching games like Patriots Jaguars last year, I was like, okay, Jaguars haven't been in it for a while. It would be nice to see them win, but I don't really care that much. And it's actually why I didn't really watch that many playoff games last year, was because the Niners weren't in it, the Seahawks weren't in it, so I didn't really have any teams that I loved or hated in there.
Yeah, once the Saints lost to the Vikings in that crazy end, then I was kind of deflated. I was like, I don't really want to watch this anymore.
Yeah. So, all right. So before we close out our show, we have this trivia question. I'm going to ask for a hint on this. I've been going. So here's the thing. I've been going through each team. You said it's someone that's only been on one team, correct?
Yes.
Is it an NFC or an AFC team?
AFC.
Okay, that's why. Because in my head, I started with NFC and went through all the NFC teams and couldn't think of the person. And I made it through the AFC East and could not think. And this is someone that could be. This is just is the third leading receptions in the playoffs.
Yes.
Okay. So we've got AFC North. There's Pittsburgh Steelers, Ravens, Bengals, and Browns. It's not from the Browns. It's not from the Bengals. It's not gonna be well.
No, Jeremy, you're
Yeah, no. It's not from the Ravens, and it's not from the Steelers. Uh, so I have to think, dude. This is how I think about it. I have to go through team by team. I can't just do a holistic look.
no, I agree. I think you're slower than you should be right now. I think you're well, just move on to the
Oh
next
man, you
division.
can't call me slow until I'm at least 30 years old. Jeez.
Move on to the next division.
Okay, so AFC South, we've got Titans, Colts, Texans, Jaguars. Unless I'm blanking, I don't see anybody there.
Okay, move on.
And then we've got the last one is AFC West. We've got Raiders, Chiefs, Broncos, and Chargers. Gosh, man, I think I'm just blanking tonight. I don't know.
I'm sorry because I'm probably gonna lose in the playoff prediction. I'm just gonna hold this one over your head for a little bit, just so that I can kind of even out. So he's played for one team. He's one of the greatest all time in the playoff for receptions, which means he had to have gone to the playoffs several times. Means he had to play on a team that's been to the playoffs several times.
Okay. Yeah, you don't have to talk to me like I'm a child. I'm thinking through all those things.
Not a child, maybe a teenager, I said he had a great quarterback. So who has been a great quarterback, consistent for one team, or where he's been on one team, and he's had a quarterback for those years, and he recently retired? It's not the AFC East, and it's not the AFC West. That's my last hint. You really only have two teams to choose from, and then after that, it should still be really obvious.
Oh my goodness.
This is bad. Don't let your wife listen to this show.
Okay, so why am I forgetting this person? I know this person is at the tip of my tongue, and I cannot. I mean, I'll just okay. So we'll do it then we'll do it this way, just to make it even that more painful. So there's only two divisions left, which is 8 teams. That's Jacksonville hasn't had a good quarterback. Indianapolis has had Andrew Luck. Titans haven't had a good quarterback. Texans also have not had a good quarterback. Steelers have. Ravens have not, but I mean they've been in the playoffs a few times, but I don't think enough to warrant that. And then Bengals have been in the playoffs, but they haven't had anybody that I can think of that retired. And the Browns, no.
So,
I mean, the only person, honestly, the only person that I could think of was Steve Smith. But
okay, one last hint. More of a clarification. Doesn't mean the quarterback has to be consistent. The player has been on the same team. So what team has been to the playoffs a bunch the past 15 to 20 years?
Oh, well, okay. So my pre 2010 knowledge is not that good. So if we're talking about a team that had a lot of playoff performances since 2008.
This hurts me, man. I'm just gonna put you down like a. Okay, all right. Peyton Manning. Who was Peyton Manning throwing to for a decade or more? When they went to the playoffs like every year. You had him in your top 10 wide receivers of all time.
Oh my gosh.
Should I just give it away? Our fans are just probably
Just say it. Just say it.
Reggie Wayne.
He retired 2 years ago?
I'm looking it up right now. I think it's recent. Reggie Wayne stats. No. Split. An ad for whatever that is. Okay, why is it not showing his? Oh my gosh. Okay. Hold on a second, guys. ESPN has recently changed their stat layout for players, and it's awful. So.
Oh, the complete stats section hasn't changed.
Well, it's not showing. Okay, 2014. So 4 years ago, 2014. So he was a Colt from 2001 to 2014. I think he had 1 or 2 years with Andrew Luck, and then going to his postseason log, he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different years in the postseason, 21 games, and 93 receptions, which means if Edelman plays like 2 more years, which he probably will, he'll break oh, he already passed him. Never mind. Let's look at Jerry Rice. I want to see where Jerry Rice is. Will anyone get to Jerry Rice? So that Edelman's at like 90. He's in the 90s then. Take a guess. How many receptions do you think Jerry Rice has then in the postseason? If Edelman and Wayne were in the 90s.
I'm going to say Jerry Rice has 110.
So he only has 8 more games than Reggie Wayne, but he's got 151 receptions.
Oh, there's nobody's going to break that. Yeah.
And here's what's more amazing. Never mind. His targets. They didn't track all of the targets. So his target percentage is insane, but since they don't track all the targets, then it's actually lower than that. So never mind. But yeah, wow, 151. Yeah, no one's going to catch that. Except maybe George Kittle.
Hey, that bucked me up a little bit.
All right, listen to the show.
Yeah. So, on that devastating note, that's a wrap for our show. We will be on next Monday at 7:30, same time. We will be doing our post-conference championship weekend show. And then we will have 2 more shows after that, one after the Pro Bowl, where we have a couple of special segments for you. And then we'll close out our season with Monday night, 7:30 again after Super Bowl Sunday. So that's a wrap for this week. If you enjoyed tonight's episode or any of our past episodes, please like, share, and subscribe here on YouTube, as those are free ways for you to support our show. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at The Practice Squad and at Neuralizer_. Just as a reminder, if you've missed past episodes, you can watch or listen to them right here on my YouTube channel. I typically upload on Tuesday evenings, the day after we go live. As always, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Go Saints.